Think you can build a real estate empire alone? Think again. The truth is that your net worth is directly tied to your network. In today's market, going solo could be the biggest mistake you make. The 0 to 100 Elite Mastermind isn't just a coaching program, it's a network designed to propel you forward. Our members surround themselves with people who share similar goals and values, creating valuable connections that drive deals.
A survey found that 61% of baby boomer homeowners never plan to sell and only 10% intend to sell within 5 years. Most inventory will stay off the market for another decade. To find deals, you need relationships, not just MLS alerts. So what does this mean? Is there opportunity out there? Should everybody just give up, take their ball and go home because there's not going to be deals out there? Think again. What do you think, Mitch?
We always go back to like, you can make deals in any marketplace. You know, deals are made, not found. You know, but you've got to learn the tactics. You got to learn how to underwrite. You have to learn the basics. We talked about this in a previous video, but beyond that, you have to get around the right people. I think it's really important to be influenced by the right people. And it's interesting because I think the reality that we project is the reality that we see. So for example, I've met people in Hawaii, right? I've got a buddy in Hawaii that's one of the biggest flippers in Hawaii. And for me, I'm like, well, where are the deals in Hawaii? There's no deals in Hawaii. And he's like, well, the second you say that, there's not going to be any deals in Hawaii. I just decided to say there's a lot of deals in Hawaii. And now I'm flipping 10 homes per month. Well, that hit me because I think that's the way the words that you say and the way that you believe dictates your reality. So for right now, yeah, for those who say there's no deals, there's no deals. And that's great because I don't want them getting those deals. No, I'm joking. I'd love for everybody to get out there and be abundant, but I think it's the way you think first. It starts with that, and then it's the action you take. And so for me, I'm not terribly concerned by the ups and downs of the market. I think there's plenty of deals out there.
I actually think it's less about just the deals and more about, you know, the lifestyle you want and life by design. I mean, you know, I love the question that Mitch asks his kids of like, what do you want your life to look like? And I know we've talked about this on the show, but it's not just great advice for parents to ask their kids. Like, I think every adult should look in the mirror. I don't care if you're a teenager, if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, look in the mirror. Like, what do you want your life to look like? Because if you always do what you've always done, you'll always be where you've always been. And it's like, you have to make some kind of change if you're not liking your current situation, right? And so it's like, I love that Mitch asks his daughters that, hey, what do you want your life to look like? But ask yourself that. What do you want your life to look like? And then what are things that you can add to your life or take away from your life to allow you to live life by design? For me, it was cash flow real estate that allowed me to do that. I like real estate. I like investing in real estate. But what I'm more passionate about is my life outside of real estate, my time with my kids, my time with my wife, my time before my dad passed away to get to spend every day with him, the time that my wife got to spend with her mom and her stepdad before they passed away. Like, that's ultimate freedom and autonomy. The way we were able to get into an RV for 2.5 months when most of the world was shut down and just live our life to the fullest. Like, to me, that's what it's about. It's lifestyle design. And as Travis said, it's not just, you know, standing in front of a rented Ferrari and looking cool on Instagram, but it's like, actually, like, what is it? What are those couple things that are really important to you in your life? And then how can you design your life to actually accomplish that and live life on your terms? And real estate is a great way to achieve those things.
Yeah, I think too, I'll jump in here. I think that like, it's important to ask our kids that, but you know, no matter what your age is, I think it's important to ask yourself that. If you're searching, you're listening to this video, this podcast, then obviously you're searching for something different. And so stop asking what degree you can go get or what promotion you can go get or what do you want your job to look like. Like, take a minute, like, do yourself a favor. Take a minute when you're, you know, sitting at your desk with a notebook and define what your life looks like. And I think for me, my life didn't change in a positive direction until I defined what I wanted my life to look like. And then I started building something behind that. Now some people go build a business behind that, which is fine. Or some people, you know, Gabe has a friend who invests in stocks. He's a trader, right? So he's built something behind that. I don't think the vessel always matters in our world. It's real estate, and real estate's one of the number ways to do it. But the point is, define your life and build something behind that. I think too many of us grow up and they say, oh, I want to be an attorney. And then you achieve being an attorney and you're given the life of an attorney. You have very little time off, very little time with your kids, very little time to travel, to express yourself. You only get one life, as far as I know. And so I think understanding we've got to put what matters first. And if the second you get rid of the ego, the title, the, whatever title you have at work or the next degree, I think you can actually make those moves in your life that really, really matter. So define what you want your life to look like, and then go join a group like ours, or go check out our mastermind, or read our book, or do whatever you can to build that, because it doesn't take a long time to actually build that life if you're actually purposeful about it.
Well, I think it comes down to the question you ask yourself. We were talking in a previous show, like Mitch and I asked ourselves the question, how is it some people scale to 5 units of real estate and others go to hundreds or thousands? But you have to ask the question first. And in this example, it's like you ask yourself the question, what do I want my life to look like? Or, well, how could I actually scale to 500 units, let's say, because that's what we have. And how can I actually leverage those 500 units to live the life that I want and that I really, truly want? And by the way, you can own 500 units and have no life. You could be miserable and hate your life because you're working 8 hours a week and running applications and fixing toilets or dealing with shitty managers. So that would be maybe a second question. How do I own 500 units but have true time freedom? And the answers that come are really impactful. Well, I need to get the right people in place. I need to have trusted business partners. I need to have right operating partners. I need to have good lending partners, good investors that I'm investing alongside with. Like, again, the question, you have to start with the question that you're asking yourself. And I love that you said that, Gabe. Like, well, what do I want my life to look like? And I think 99% of the people never ask themselves that question. Like, what do I want my life to look like? And then, like you said, Mitch, it could be real estate, it could be business, it could be trading stock, it could be vending machines. I don't know. Go start a circus, hire Mitch.
But also how big is your vision, and how, more importantly, with not just how big is your vision, but like how clear is your vision? Because you say, hey, you could have 500 units and have 0 time freedom. But I know people with 5 units that also have 0 time freedom, right? Because their mindset is limited, and then they're the ones swinging the hammer. They're the ones dealing with property management. Like, they are the property manager. They're the maintenance person. They're dealing with tenants. And so it's like, it becomes a headache. I think a lot of people believe that real estate is a great path to financial freedom. It's a great way to build wealth, or as you like to say, Travis, the great equalizer. But people often get into real estate thinking it's going to be one thing, and then they've created a job for themselves. And we've talked about this a lot, and I think it's why the vision is so important. Why, what do you want real estate to do for you is an important question to answer, because you could go out there and buy 1, 2, 3, 5 properties, 10 properties, 15 properties. We have tons of episodes on like how to buy cash flow in real estate, right? But you could have 5 properties and it still be a headache for you. And if you only have 5 properties, you're also probably working a full-time job, right? And so then if you're working a full-time job and you're dealing with these properties and you're the only one responsible, and your vision isn't large enough to scale something bigger or to implement or put something in place to actually give you more freedom, then you've actually created less time freedom. So now you're working a job that, say, you don't like. You're getting up early to deal with the properties. You're staying out late to deal with the properties. So you're not spending time with your family. You don't actually have the financial freedom or time freedom to go travel or give back to an important cause. And you've actually created a scenario where you're working more and you actually have less freedom. So I think it's important to understand, like, what is that vision you see for yourself, and what is it that you actually want real estate to do for you? Because real estate can be an amazing tool for time freedom, but it can also be a trap if you don't invest correctly, or at least have your vision correct.
So I couldn't agree more, Gabe, because I think that a lot of people look at real estate, they just say they say those 2 words. Oh, real estate's a great investment, or real estate's going to make me free. And there's some truth to that. There's also some lies to that. And I think the road to freedom through cash flow real estate, or through anything, is extremely narrow. The path is narrow, and you've got to stay on that path, and you've got to go the right direction. And this is where, like, I think that we're, I love our own baby. I'm biased to the 0 to 100 Mastermind, this channel, our book, but like, we're different. We're not flippers. We're not land bankers. We're not developers. We're not speculative. We could go on forever about all the things we are not. We are one thing: freedom through cash flow real estate. And that's a different thing. That's a different thing than just being in real estate or just jumping into real estate because you think it's going to get you free. It's a narrow path. We have a lot of people join us, in our mastermind who have flipped properties for a long time. They're like, look, I left my job to be free through real estate, and now I flip properties and I'm not free, and I'm frustrated. And it's amazing what we can do with those folks. We look at their portfolio, we look at what they own, what they do every day, and they possess a lot of skills to get them there, but they're not quite there. And all we got to do is tweak them just a tiny little bit. Hey, let's think about it this way. Let's think about it this way. Instead of selling, let's do a refinance. Instead of buying and flipping, let's look for cash flow. So I just think the world of real estate is pretty vast. We could talk about multiple asset classes and multiple strategies, but there's a very narrow path to actually get free and actually get your life back. And that's what we do at 0 to 100. And that's what we do in our mastermind every single week, or at least 3 weeks out of the month, is we teach people and we help people and we mastermind. And it's not just us teaching, by the way. We have members inside our elite mastermind that have tons and millions of dollars worth of real estate. And they're giving back to these other members going, hey, hold on a second. What about this thinking? What about this thinking? What about this? And pretty soon, within 6 months or a year, these folks are getting free. They're quitting their jobs. They're changing their entire lives because they see the world in a different way. And it's not just real estate. It's a very, very narrow path inside the entire world of real estate.
Gabe mentioned vision. And I go back to that first thing I said. It's the question you ask yourself. And when you set out a big vision, and I love the book Vivid Vision. In fact, it's one of the recommended reads we have in our book. It's also one of the recommended reads we have in the 0 to 100 Mastermind. If you set a big vision, and part of that vision is, or maybe the focal point of that vision is the life you want to live, the freedom you want to have, the choices you want to have, the relationships you want to have. If you actually put time and thought into that and get very clear about what that looks like, it's going to tell you what to do, but it's also going to tell you what not to do. And in the examples you talked about before, you're like, well, my vivid vision says I want to be able to pick up and travel the world with my family whenever I want, or I want to go spend time with my father, or I want to spend time with, whatever the case is. You're going to say no to buying properties that require a bunch of time, or you're going to say no to managing those properties, or you're going to say no perhaps to maybe buying small properties. You're going to go, okay, well, if my actions truly need to align with my vision, I need to buy bigger properties. I need to buy properties that are big enough to have management and to have asset managers and to be large enough to produce outsized cash flow returns. And then, it's going to tell you what to do, but it's also going to help dictate what not to do. And I think that's why setting that vision is so important.
I do too. I think your vision drives you and your purpose drives you and your identity drives you. There's a lot of things, that drive you towards your destination to get specific results. And it's a combination of all those things. We talk about identity, and we haven't talked about this a lot, but if you have an identity that says that you're limited, that you're small, that you can't achieve, maybe your parents didn't achieve, or they drill that into you, or something in your childhood you're using to reinforce a negative identity, guess what? You're going to take all these tools and strategies and you're not going to do anything with them because you're held back because you have this internal belief. And so I think it's a cocktail of understanding, why are you doing it? What's your purpose? What's behind it to drive you? And then how do you change yourself? And we've had a lot of successful people on our podcast. And one of the most valuable things I've heard is it's not what you get along the way, it's who you become. And I love that, because you need to become somebody differently, and you can't go back to, in a previous video or podcast, we talked about the default tribe Gabe talked about, and the default tribe is negative, and it's scarcity, and it's fear, and it's focused on risk. It's focused on all the things you're not going to become. It's focused on play it safe and get a job and go work for somebody for 40 years. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, if you love your job and you're fulfilled by it, but it's terrible if you're not fulfilled. It's terrible if you can't be with your kids and do the things you love. And so what tribe are you in? First of all, ask yourself that question. And do you like the results of the tribe? The results of the default tribe are sad, unfortunately. We have people dying not that many years after retirement. Most people are totally flat broke. We've talked about that. We've dropped data bombs. Most people have a couple $100,000 in their bank account and they want to stop working and they can't. The default tribe is not giving you the results. It's not giving people the results that people deserve. So look at your tribe, ask yourself, what tribe are you in, and what tribe do you want to be a part of? And whether it's our tribe or some other tribe, choose it, be on purpose, take control, and you'll take control of your whole life.
There's a sense of urgency to that. I was just in Italy and then Greece. And as I was traveling around with my family, I saw a lot of older people. They just retired. They're getting off the cruise ship, right? They finally made it. They're 70 years old. They've done what they've been told their whole life. Work, save, invest in your 401k or your pension or whatever the case is. And these people are literally hobbling off the ship. They're older, they've never taken care of their health because they've given their entire life to their company and their job. And they finally reached that point of retirement. And I'm like, I feel like I'm young. Mitch would disagree. I'm like 48 years old. I'm like, I feel healthy. I've been able to focus on my health. I was able to retire early through cash flow real estate, and I'm enjoying being with my kids. I've got my health. I can walk up and down the stairs in Positano in Italy. I can do these things where these other people can't because they subscribed to the default tribe and they finally retired. And I would argue that I enjoyed my retirement more than they have because I have my youth and I have the rest of my life ahead of me.
Well, I'll go back to, and I love the default tribe concept, by the way, and I'll give that one to Gabe because he talked about that previously. But listen, be careful to pay attention to the words or to listen to the words of the default tribe, okay? And don't even listen to the words of, in other words, be careful what you're listening to because you want to look at the results. What are the results of the default tribe? Go look it up. Go look up the data. What's the average retirement income or savings? What's the average health? What's the average lifespan? What's the right? How much can people travel through their life? How much freedom do they have? How many parents cannot spend time with their kids? Look at the results of the default tribe. Don't listen to the words of you need to go to college, you need to do this, you need to get a job, you need to be safe, you need to invest your 401k, your Roth IRA, you need to buy a retirement, buy a home in Florida and play pickleball and diabetes. Like listen to the results, not the instructions of the tribe. And I think that's important. And when we look at the results of the default tribe, I think you owe it to yourself to pick the people you're around.
Yeah, look at their health, look at their relationship with their kids, the relationship with their spouses. And Travis, you mentioned, the old retired folks that you saw in Europe that were, hobbling off the cruise ship or whatever and could barely walk. And those are the folks that actually made it that far. Those are the folks that had the financial ability to at least get there. And I know on a past episode, we talked about, those in their 60s and 70s, and they have 200,000 in the bank. And then I think it was 75, it drops off to 130. Well, that accounts for a very small portion. Think of all the people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s that have no money in the bank, that are still working, oftentimes in jobs they don't like, and they have to work just to live, right? And so, you talk about those that are finally getting to retire, and they don't have the health and wellness to actually go see and experience these things. A lot of people don't even make it that far. And that's what's sad. And that's where you really have to question, who's living the life, that you similar to that you want, and what is it that you want for your own life, and how can you take the right steps to get there? Because that default setting in a lot of cases is sad. That default setting is oftentimes go to school, go to more school, get a job, work for somebody else, make somebody else wealthy, right? And so maybe you're making someone else wealthy so they can go live the life they want, while you're completely forgetting about your dreams and your family and your time. And I really think you should put a lot of value on your time and your family and your community, and make sure you're building something so that you can not only provide for yourself and your family, but you can also give back, and you have the time and resources to do that.
Huge. I think that, and we're at the point in our lives where I cared about money so that I could achieve my why. And today I've achieved my why, and I find myself, I'm not aggressively going out and scaling for more money. And so as I change my why is moving toward how do I help other people? How do I serve other people? Not only maybe profits from our real estate going into helping people, but also how do we serve people through 0 to 100 and through our tribe? And how do we take this and throw it to the pond and create a ripple that changed lives? I think that in our country, this is a whole different tangent, but the problem with most problems we have starts at the family unit. And a lot of time in our society today, parents are not there for their kids. They're farmed out to daycare, or they've got somebody watching them all day, and we're not giving our children the attention they need. And we have broken families because of it. And so if we can help inspire that and inspire other people to create lives where they can actually do the things that matter, I think we can make a big difference. And I think if you're listening to this in real estate's your path, you've got to come hang out. You've got to come join us and check out what we have, because we're able to go live these lives. And I don't want to brag, right? I don't want to say, oh, I can go do this and I can go all these things. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. I'm saying it because you can too. You can do the same thing. I was average in school. I was average at everything I've ever fucking done. But you can
Mitch is
do
very
these
average.
things if you, I'm little more average or little less average than you are. But anyway, so I think that anybody can go do this. This is not extremely complex. We're not talking about the new AI, or something extremely complex. But you've got to develop your purpose. You got to develop your why, and you got to go chase it. And again, it's back to control. You've got to go take control. And I get passionate about this because I think a lot of adults think they don't have control. You're a full grown adult. You have full control over your life, over your finances, over where you live, what job all that.